In this chapter, we're going to begin with order of operation because it is the number one thing that's used quite often, order of operation. So here are the steps. The first thing you need to do is always do grouping symbols, which are like parentheses or brackets. Then we want to do exponents or powers, and then we want to do multiplying and dividing, but we need to make sure we're going left to right. And then we're going to do the same thing with addition, left to right. So let's look at our first problem here. We want to evaluate the expression, and we're going to first put the numbers into, so we're going to substitute these numbers for where they go, and then do order of operation. So m is a 3, so I'm going to substitute a 3 there. And then a p is a -4, so I'm going to put a -4 where the p is, -1. And then we have our parentheses and our exponent of 2. So now I'm going to follow the order. First thing I want to do is any grouping symbol. So inside this, so I'm going to do inside here first. So -4 minus 1 is a -5. Then the second thing I'm going to do is evaluate powers. So any exponent. So now I do the exponent, -5 squared. In your calculator, that's a 25. And then 3 plus 25 adding would make us a 28. So I've evaluated the expression by substituting and then doing order of operation. So let's do the same thing over here on our guided practice problem. I want to substitute first, so m becomes a 12, so I'm going to put the 12 where the m is. Q becomes a -1, and then I have my +4. So now here's where it gets tricky. And what I mean by that is a lot of you will do this part first, and that's actually incorrect because we want to do left to right. So I need to do this part first. So 12 divided by 2, which is 6. And then 6 times a -1, so 6 times a -1 plus 4, -6 plus 4, and we get our -2. Now you would get the same answer if you multiplied, but it's good practice to always go left to right because there's times where that's not the case. So here are the evaluation. So what we're going to do now is we're going to evaluate algebraic expressions. To do that, we're going to substitute our numbers that are given to us into our expression and then solve by using our order of operations. So if we substitute the 5 where the a is and the -3.2 where the b is and do the same thing here, and then we'll go through our order of operations. I'm going to do the square, keeping in mind that -3.2 squared is always going to be positive, and so we have 5 plus 10.24, and then we will get a -8.2 if you take a -3.2 and minus the 5. And so then we can do our multiplication, the 10.24 times the -8.2. When you do that math, you're going to get a -83.968 plus 5. And so now we're going to 83.968 plus the 5 gives us our -78.968. And there's the correct answer. Now let's look at this other problem where it's in a fraction form. If we put this, the letters in, so I got a -3 to the 4th power, so I'm going to use my parentheses, minus 3 times 4 times a -5, and then I do the other letters, -5, I'm going to put that to the 3rd power, plus 2 times 4. If I do the math on the top, so if I just keep my fraction, that will be 81, that would be a positive, and this will be a positive 60, and on the bottom I'm going to get a -125 plus 8. And if I go ahead and continue that on, I'm going to get 141 over -117. And if you do that problem in your calculator, it will reduce to 47 over 39 negative because of the -117. So this would be the answer for that. The last problem we're going to do is a real-world example using formula. Formulas are special equations that work for every single problem. So what we want to do is look at this formula and figure out what each letter stands for. So what we're looking for is V, which is volume, and pi, which is 3.14. So pi is 3.14. Then we just need to know what R stands for. Well, R is the radius
of a circle, which is halfway across, and then h is the height. So once we know what each letter stands for, we can look for those things in our picture and fill in the numbers. So we're trying to find the volume, so I already know V will not be an answer. So I'm going to look for radius, which is 75, because that is halfway across the circle. So I'm going to have my 1/3, which is a number already part of the formula. I'm going to go ahead and leave pi in there for now. And then my radius is 75, so I'm going to substitute that by using parentheses, and it's squared. And the height is 225. 225, and I'm going to put that in parentheses just to separate. Now I can go ahead and do my order of operations. So I'm going to do my exponents first. So my 75 gets taken to the second power, which is a large number. So I'm just going to write out, I got my volume, 1/3 pi, and then 175 squared is 5,625. And I'm going to multiply now. I'm going to go left to right. So multiplying by a fraction is the same thing as division. So if I take the 5,625 and divide by 3, I get 1875, and then I can multiply that, 1875, times the 225, and then I still have pi. I'm not going to multiply pi, I'm just going to leave pi. So if I multiply that by 225, I'm going to get 421,875 pi as my volume once I substitute the numbers and do order of operation. We're not going to evaluate pi because it's a repeating decimal. We're just going to leave pi as part of our answer.